Hello again, this is Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics for this, the 12th of February, 2951 or 2020, or excuse me, 2952 or 2022 if you're stuck in the past. This presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics for the members of the Aurora Republic, the premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting for the first time, let me start by saying welcome. We're glad to have you with us. Would love to hear from you if you're interested in hearing more from us. We're a lawful good organization focused on roleplay, exploration, and social interaction, and are currently active and recruiting on Spectrum and Gilded. All right, for tonight, first we're going to get our focus back on what we're doing there. Okay. We're going to have a refresher real quick on organizational structure, specifically the ranks and roles on our various communications platforms and within the organization, and a touch on the training plan. So, ranks and roles, RSI has a rank and role system set up in their on their organizations pages that they provide on their website, and we basically copied those and then tweaked them a little bit to our liking, but they are we've tried to make them as identical and synonymous across the different platforms so that they should be as simple and easily understandable as possible. Of course, the founders is Shamdern and myself as the two thirds of the original founders, and so then we have our senior staff, which will typically be in red. And that's anybody who's leading one of our departments or the department level agencies. Staff is be anybody else who's helping out with staff positions within the org. These are all the RSI organizational ranks. Okay, so and I think there's 6 levels of that. So yeah, staff is anybody who's holding any type of a job in the org but is not at that leadership level. Veterans are the folks in the org who have been with us and active for at least 6 months, have their BQ and UPT certs. We'll talk more to that in a minute. And then, of course, citizens, any member who's only passed the basic qualification but hasn't come in and flown with any of the veterans. One of the biggest things between, as far as the RSI ranks are concerned, the difference between the veteran and the citizen is both the 6 months, the activity, and whether or not we would consider them to be able to vouch for somebody having come in and gotten their immigrant tag removed. So anybody who holds the veteran rank on our RSI organizational page is somebody that we would code to if we said, like, hey, we've seen so-and-so's still holding the light blue immigrant tag forever. Has anybody seen them come in and fly? And if a veteran vouches, then we consider that good enough without having to be like specifically an instructor pilot or leadership or anything like that. So immigrant is obviously the newest. That's for folks who just come in and have not come in and accomplished basic qualifications, which is at least have come in and learned how to get up, move around, use the Mobiglass, use the kiosks, call up a ship, all that sort of stuff. Use the janky inventory system, all that kind of sort of thing. So basically, if you've ever come in flying with anybody in the org, or it doesn't have to necessarily be flying, you've come in and played Star Citizen with anybody in the org. If you just signed up and then never come in, then you haven't gotten rid of the immigrant tag yet. If you have come in at least once and with anybody who's one of the regulars, then that's going to get that immigrant tag ticket punched and then move you up to citizen. So the roles within the RSI website were basically founders, officer, marketing, and recruitment. Those different roles give different permissions on the RSI website, on our org page on the RSI website, as far as what they can do. So leadership is what we renamed the officer role, and that's anybody who has that senior staff rank. That's why it's all in red. So it's watch the colors. Communications is what we renamed the ISR marketing role, and the communications folks with the communications role attached to them can actually touch and change our branding and all that stuff on the RSI website. The citizen services is what we renamed the RSI recruitment role, and that's folks who will be able to see, folks with the citizen services tag will be able to see recruitment applications and invites and all of that sort of stuff on the RSI website, and they therefore also have a hand in being able to help onboard new folks. We duplicated this over onto Gilded to the maximum extent possible. So leadership is, but of course, when you're talking about any sort of a online VoIP communications platform, when you're talking about roles, you're really talking about permissions. So we kept the same roles to the max extent possible. So obviously the founders, we own the server, so we have all the permissions. Leadership pretty much has all the permissions with the except for the highest server owner level stuff, like being able to delete the server outright. We just did that as a protective measure from accidental button pushes. Citizen and immigrant have exactly the same permissions. There is no difference between them except for the color of the tag. And that's pretty much, you can do everything on the server with the exception of any server management or any management of others' behavior. So if somebody else posts something, you can't go delete other people's posts or edit other people's posts, but you can obviously do everything with yours. You can read, you can write, you can use voice, you can transmit, broadcast in the streaming channels, bring on new emojis, all of that sort of stuff. For the citizens, the server is actually pretty permissive, and every once in a while we find that we missed a button switch somewhere. So if you do run into something that you think you should have permissions for and it's not letting you, then just hit up leadership or founders, and we should be able to go into the roles and figure out what we got wrong where. Gilded is very, very customizable, which means that it's almost an overwhelming number of options. So we can miss a button click or a switch somewhere that we haven't found. With as long as we've been operating Gilded, I think we've got them pretty tight and we've got most of them out. There's also departmental and agency roles that are only used for channel accesses. You won't see those colors, which is gray, just a dark gray. You don't see those over on anybody's names. You should only see those four, really three. You should see the red, the dark blue, or the light blue. Obviously, Chamdren and I are in the gold. Because the others are subsequent to those top three. They're lower level, so they're just there to get certain channels to turn on for the folks who are working in those areas. So if you're in the Department of Defense, then you should be able to see the Department of Defense channel. If you're not, then it should actually not even show up over in your lists over on the left side of Gilded. And so hopefully that all should be pretty sensical between the RSI website's org page for us, their ranks, their roles, and our Gilded roles. For channel, read group, exactly. So, when I say the channels, I meant the group lists that are down on the left edge of the Gilded application. Okay, the training plan has actually been is a constant work in progress. It's the codification of our official training program. It's a single repository for all of these different concepts for our organizational schema as far as training goes, the lessons plans and the skill challenges that are required for those kind of things, and what our certification standards are. One of our long-term goals has been to always provide top quality training to folks in the org, and to hopefully eventually make ourselves a reputation for being the place to go to get top quality training, unmatched anywhere else in the verse. So the training syllabi is, like I said, is a work in progress. It is not a finished product yet, not even close, because we're still waiting on systems in the game to be finished up. But right now we're at version 1.3. It's been getting worked and reworked as new things have come online. That is where you can go look. It's posted on our website. You can go in there and look it up for what modules and certifications are available, the flow charts for how those trainings are intended to go, the individual lessons plans, what prerequisites are required, what skill challenges you'll be expected to be able to do at the end of each block, and if and the concept of proficiency advancement, and talks about all of those sort of things. And we're going to go into those in a little bit deeper detail here for a moment. So all the different training that is in our syllabi are organized into block modules, and they are organized by major skills subject categories according to the actual gameplay that's in Star Citizen. For example, FPS combat, we have broken down into 3 block modules. So there's basic combat training, some similar to like going to basic training and figuring out how to move and groove and use weapons and all that sort of stuff. Then advanced tactical training would be some of the more advanced and more specialized skills like sniper or something similar. And then the top level would that be specifically all of those other skills specifically in zero G operations. So those would be 3 blocks, each of those culminating into certification, which means that you'd get on our Aurora Republic website, if you look onto your personnel record, you'd see a certification badge or a ribbon that would say that, okay, so people could look and go, okay, this guy has actually gone through the formal training for BCT or ATT or ZGO. Some of the pillar certifications come with bling, specifically not only on the website will it show up. If you are, like I said, if you go through our undergraduate pilot training program, then you'll earn your Aurora Republic wings. Those will show up not only on your personnel record on the Aurora Republic website, but those are actual physical items that are available for purchase at cost from the org itself. We don't make a profit on that. We just give it to you for what it cost us to get them, and plus the shipping to get it to you, so that you can actually wear those on your shirt, on your polo, for things like CitizenCon and that sort of thing. Within the training syllabi, you can find a flow chart for every single block of training, showing you how what different training events are involved in that, getting to that certification. Whoops. They do flow from bottom to top, and the different shapes coordinate with whether it's an academic lesson like what you're having now, or whether it's an in-game event where you go in with an instructor and actually do something. So if it's that sort of rounded rectangle, that's academics of some sort, a classroom type format. Could be a presentation, could be a video, could be something like that, but it's basically get the academics first before you go do. So if it's an FPS mission, if you're doing some sort of FPS training, then it's our little soldier guy there, and it'll have the serial of that FPF mission. If it's a flying sortie, it'll have that Avenger silhouette with the serialized identifier of that, which you go in and go fly with an instructor pilot. If it's an ops mission, that'll be taught on the job for those things. That's notional in the future. And same thing for a C2 mission is the Crown. Again, is taught on the job with an experienced member who's already certified. So each one of those things that are on that flow chart will have an individual lesson plan in there, in that training syllabus for that block module. Will be in there where you can see the outline of what it is you're going to learn and what academics you need to go through if there's whatever prerequisites. So you can look on that flow chart and go, okay, if I'm doing UPT, the first thing I got to do is Basic Aviation 100 or Basic Aviation 101 or something. And it's a rounded rectangle, so you go, okay, so that's an academics. So I need to go find where I can get that academics. You can either go onto our YouTube channel and go look at that specific presentation. You can also find that on our website, for example, or you could just contact anybody in leadership or any of the instructor pilots or training instructors, which we are still in the process of certifying, and contact them and say, hey, I need this, where can I find it, or where can I get it, or who can get it for me, and get that scheduled and get it done. In those outlines, you will find the prerequisites are in the header, usually over on the right side where it'll say prerequisite and what that prerequisite is. They are typically, this will perfectly echo what you see in the flowchart. So if you see an academic lesson that has an arrow going off to a sortie, such as the academic lesson FL 501, Flight Lead Practice Briefing, as you can see over there on the right side, and Fly 502 on the flowchart, FL 501 would have a line and an arrow pointing over into Fly 502. It means before you can go Fly 502, you have to have completed FL 501, which would make sense, obviously, because it's one begets the other. It serves as an outline. At the bottom of each outlined lesson is a list of skill challenges that are basically considered sort of like the test, if you will, to complete that lesson. Or in other words, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to do this skill challenge type of a thing. Those are also those skill challenges also come up when we start talking about proficiency advancement. So prerequisites are obviously everything is designed into a building blocks approach, and the prerequisites are those required lessons or certifications to be able to do the next thing. So like I have diagrammed over on the right where it says you have to have your UPT certification before you can start into combat aviation. So you go do combat aviation 200, and that has a line that options you over into Fly 201. Which is basic fighter maneuvers. So you have to have combat. So you need to go do combat aviation 200, which is an academic lesson, before you go fly the sortie with an instructor pilot at Fly 201. And that's the first thing that the instructor pilot's going to check is whether or not you've actually got the prerequisite complete. I use combat aviation 200 as an example because it actually, once you complete it, it options you into two things. And not only can you go Fly 201 now, you can actually go do the next academic lessons of combat aviation 202, which now teaches ACM, aerospace combat maneuvering. Those skill challenges I mentioned earlier, that's kind of the demonstrate proficiency by the end of the class, by the end of the training sortie, for it to be considered complete. In other words, it's the goal of what you're trying to learn to do for this hour that you're flying with an instructor, for example, or running around on planet with a FPS training instructor. And those are down at the bottom of the outline for that lesson. So they'll be the last item will be skill challenges and what they are. And that's what you have to demonstrate proficiency in by the end of that the instructor has to decide that you're demonstrating proficiency in that skill. That is also how you can have proficiency advancement. In other words, skip either an individual training event or maybe an entire certification if you can demonstrate all of those things. So if you're an experienced gamer and you're like, dude, I don't need you to teach me how to shoot in first-person shooters, then our answer is going to be, okay, come in and show me. And the instructor, before we grant you the certification for that, even though you've been playing FPS shooter games for 20 years, the answer is going to be, okay, here's the thing. We're going to go into Star Citizen. Show me this, show me that, show me this, show me that, show me that. Hopefully in a 5-minute game experience of you just show me how to do this, 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 and this, whatever those skill challenges are, then we can go, yep, good enough. We don't have to waste any of the training time or assets or people's time training you something you already know. So that whole demonstrate proficiency is what will allow proficiency advancement without having to actually do the whole lesson. So it's all pointed at avoiding wasting time and resources training skills that somebody already knows. So, okay, that was a lot, fast and furious. The training plan is, like I said, it's still a work in progress. If you go look at it, it still has draft everywhere, and it is constantly being reworked. Particularly, there's a lot of blocks of training, particularly if you look in the sections of stuff that doesn't exist in game yet, that are just complete, basically written in fantasy, or what we call it. It's a skeleton. It's kind of our guess, and this is kind of the way we think. But obviously, as they put games in, or as they put features into the game, and we get folks who are more skilled at those things who might be able to be an instructor, then we rework those sections. The FPS stuff is being reworked right now because Drake and Jeff, or excuse me, Drake and Jeff, Bombero and Jeff have been putting together academics and setting up some video shoots, and they've been building out some of the academic portions of our like basic combat training. So that entire section, that whole block module in the syllabus has been getting tweaked and worked as they've been creating academics, and because what's in there now is what, you know, a 30-year fighter pilot just kind of quickly threw down as a skeleton, as a straw man of what FPS surface training might look like. And now that we've got folks who are more skilled at it and willing to take the time to put the academics together, which is the harder hurdle to jump, as they have been adding to, as they've been helping out and adding and building those academics out, we've been going back and tweaking things to match what makes more sense now that we have people who are smarter at it than me. So, yep. All the existing presentations are on YouTube, on our website, and up in Gilded as well, under the Training Ops channel. Yeah. So, okay. With that, doesn't seem to be any other questions, so that wraps up this installment of Academics with Foghorn. Hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions I didn't answer, please feel free to contact me via email, Gilded, Spectrum, or of course the comment section below, and I'll answer to the best of my ability, which basically means as soon as I can see it. Members and visitors alike, please hit those follows and subscribe buttons as appropriate, and leave us a comment. We always like to read that stuff and take the feedback, and always strive to improve our content. You can find out more information on AuroraRepublic.space, our bespoke website, or on Spectrum at robertspaceindustriesorg/Aurora. I'll see you next time. This is Foghorn signing off and wishing you a very pleasant the remainder of your afternoon, morning, and or evening, and thank you so very much for watching.